Hi, Decoders. This week we are exploring what awakening actually means. Like the real one, not the yoga class one. Hi, I'm Kiran Trace. Welcome to Humans Decoded, a story of hobbits, fairies, elves, dwarfs, gnomes, and humans. If you get lost at any point, there is a deep dive on all the different avatars in episode 1. It includes notes. Thank you for joining us in a fun little chat about the vast potential of our human makeup. Hi, Leela. Hi, Cam.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, everyone from our virtual studio.
You know, I wanted to talk about this. I threw this in because this week on the Instagram, on my Instagram feed, there's this yoga teacher. He's really influential. He's got a big following. And, you know, he's one of those poster boys for the like modern urban yoga practice. You know, like he's super buff and ripped with like no body fat, and he's like all tattooed, and he does these super impressive handstands and headstands. And like you look at it and it's like, buff dude gets the babes, you know, like yoga,
but also very cute
yoga, you know, like and he's cute, and he represents that kind of like yoga as a fitness routine in a way. I mean, he takes it much more seriously, obviously, but we don't. until this week, because we all three of us are fans of this guy, Patrick Beach. I'm gonna out you, Patrick Beach, influencer. We were fans. We loved your muscles and your fancy inversions and your big blue eyes and that kind of cell of yoga. But this week he recently said the process is in your postures. That's what allows you to come in and out of your enlightenment. And I was like, you want to use that word enlightenment? And the truth was he does, because it was clickbait. The title, the kind of hook on the image, the first image was like, when you find your enlightenment. And it was so stinky. It was farting up the whole room. Like, it was just like, oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, up until now, I was talking about him as my future husband, jokingly, but also not. But now, I mean, it's just embarrassing. That's what it is. Like, do you have a saying in English, like, stick to your something?
Yeah, like, it's like stay in your lane. But isn't yoga pretending to be an enlightened business? Isn't that the thing that it does?
Sure, yeah, but not the yoga that Patrick represents. Not like yoga is sort of this 8-branched way, path, blah, blah, blah. And Hatha yoga, the physical yoga, is just one of these branches, one of these paths. And I'm just remembering, you know, since we're talking about how the word enlightenment gets thrown around easily or lightly.
Misappropriately, misused.
Yeah. Like an ex-colleague of mine, she went to a yoga retreat somewhere in India, and she was in this yin yoga class in a yoga posture, and then she had some sort of release, and then she came back to Switzerland and wrote an article about how she definitely got enlightened in this yoga class. And I mean, that was years and years ago. But even then, I had to laugh out loud. I was like, seriously? You had some like melting in your body and you think that's enlightenment? So I'm super down for this conversation also because there's a lot of people that are kind of striving to get enlightened, and it becomes their main focus in life. Like they pause everything else and it's like, okay, I'm going to work towards this goal, enlightenment, which tickles me.
Oh, yeah. It can get taken very, very seriously. And I was in that camp, by the way. But I feel like nowadays, like the word enlightenment, it's it's like common parlance. Everybody throws it around, like the word like trauma or vibe. It's almost become like slang. So everybody's using it and nobody has a shared definition of it. So we're all running around claiming it.
Yeah, like an adjective.
Or if
it's suddenly
yeah.
a descriptive
Like,
word for how I
enlightened
feel.
of you.
It's my vibe. It's kind of enlightened. I have an enlightened vibe. I'm enlightened. Yeah, like
Yeah. Or like nice shoes.
it was enlightened.
You enlightened?
Yeah, it was an enlightened way.
Or if you were like me, maybe you're in the spiritual camp where it's a very sacred word that cannot be desecrated and is reserved only for the very, very holy, and you've spent your life seeking it, and it's, it's very serious business. So I couldn't think of anybody better to ask. Someone who's awake, clear as fuck, but also down with the kids. Take it away, Kiran. Give it to us. What is enlightenment?
Well, it's a type of awakening. There are many types of awakening. It is an awakening into your original nature. We will link to my article, The Ultimate Guide to Awakening, down below that goes into perfect detail of the various types of awakenings that a person can have. But one of the awakenings is an awakening into original nature. So you know what? I'm just going to read the article because I actually edited that one. I wrote it and edited. Okay. So waking into original nature is not a personal or spiritual awakening. It's something else entirely. It's waking up out of anything that's personal or spiritual. It's also waking up out of experiences. Ironically, awakening into original nature is to wake up to reality that there is no you. There is no world. There are no other dimensions. It's to awaken directly to the deepest reality of life, that all life is simply an illusion projected from a vast, silent spaciousness. Now, the experience of this, which is an awareness that you are not you. Life is not life. This is a direct insight that you are, in fact, only a vast, eternal awareness, dreaming all of creation into being. That's not you dreaming creation into being. That's not you creating your reality. That is reality dreaming. No you. No you. And this insight hugely transforms every single thing about you. Not just you, everything in your past and future. Giant nothingness. The awakening wipes out your existence completely and is quite literally your death. And I'm not talking about a physical death or material death. A death of being able to identify as you, this person with very clear, concrete, seemingly real history, seemingly real family, seemingly real children, parents, cousins. And that drive that motivates this kind of a future. Ultimately, this awakening will wipe out your history, your dreams, your goals. Even your current friends, partnerships are no longer seen in the same way. Many people can have a little glimpse, a short spell of this awareness, which we call a non-abiding insight. But they don't fully awaken into their original nature, which is to say they get very shaken by the insight, but they don't have a death. And that's the signature of an actual awakening into original nature. Now, if you've not had this experience, it's impossible to identify what this spirit experience was and, who's in the same company. Because if you've had the experience, it's very obvious who else is in the same camp. And it's really obvious who is falsely proclaiming this insight.
I mean, to me, that reads like a poem. It's so beautiful hearing you say it out loud. But I just want to say, yeah, it's really icky if someone's claiming it who isn't actually awake, because there has to be a you in order to claim it, and the awakening is the death of that you. So yeah, it can be super like, oh.
But I will say that if it's not been your experience and you start to think it is your experience, it's so obvious. It's so freaking obvious. I used to say as a metaphor, it's like if you've actually died into your original nature, it's like you grew an extra arm and you have 3 arms. And so you can see everybody has 3 arms. Like it doesn't, like it's not you're not like looking to see. It's like everyone has 3 arms. And then comes someone with 2 arms who's saying like, wow, it's like I'm here with you. And it's like, yeah, you are very obviously not. And you've bought some fucking hierarchy story that you think it's really important that this is happening and you're falsely claiming it. But it's, I tell you what, it's certainly not. It's certainly not in your cow pose in yoga. It's not in the fucking process of your handstand where you come in and out of your enlightenment, Mr. Patrick Beach. Anyways.
Bless him, though.
Yeah, enough taking the piss out of him. But let's just talk about, like why this is so challenging. We don't have, as Cami said, a shared definition of this word. There isn't a very clear, concrete definition. And so, yeah, it's so misused. It's so appropriated. And here's the other thing. It's sold. It's sold in a hierarchy of worthiness. You will become so special and so worthy and worth everyone's attention if you have this experience. I don't know how that gets classified because I missed all that. I missed the cultural protocol of this stuff. But but it's like it feeds our not good enough belief system, and not good enough starts striving. And then it becomes Instagram clickbait. Because then we can throw this word around like Mr. Beach did, like where you find your enlightenment. It is not a hierarchy. It doesn't make one super special or super important. It is not something one needs strive for. Talk about like shit your pants, get disemboweled if this was to suddenly happen to you. Like, you don't want this to suddenly happen to you. You really don't. Most of the reason I teach what I teach is so that it's a very slow, quiet, simple, effortless, peaceful life that you start to live in alignment with your true build out. And then most people sort of pop into this original nature, but God damn it, you don't want it to suddenly sneak up on you.
No, and you're already pointing at who really wants to work, towards enlightenment. It's the not good enoughs in all of us that are so sold on the idea of reaching some sort of goal, reaching some sort of finish line also, because I find and I observe that to this pain body and other pain bodies, like other belief systems, other baggage that we carry around, it's so mega hard to trust that the ease or the resting or the just sitting in silence is actually enough. There's no hard work, there's no effort required. And to not good enough, it seems like, but how is this possibly ever gonna get me where I want to go? But as we're sharing here, it's not about this I who wants to get somewhere. It's the opposite. Like that eventually maybe falls away. And it's not on the separate self. It's not on the you to define when and how, because, I also see that many people are looking for this sort of huge fireworks going off, bam, instant sudden awakening, like a Kiran type of awakening where, one moment she's a she and the next moment it's all light. But yeah, that's another story that's sold. I mean, for some people it's like that, but I guess it's quite rare. And when we look for the sort of for that type of awakening, it makes us miss all the other maybe more quiet, more subtle ways that it can happen as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's a very thick story woven into, I think, hundreds of years of selling awakening, like the cell. That if you have a big blast, like my kind of awakening, you'll suddenly feel so safe. You'll suddenly feel equanimable in any space, right? You'll be this tower of peace no matter what's going on, no matter where you are, in the cityscape or the rural scape or really dysfunctional family holiday. You'll just be this tower of peace. There's no more pain body. There's no more suffering. That awakening will be this really soft land, and it'll just happen in a moment. But it will also include all kinds of great spiritual fireworks, like special things, like all the big things, the clairsentiences and all the superpowers. Dude, I had that awakening. I have those superpowers, and it's shit. You don't want it. You don't want it. Because awakening amplifies pain body, right? So there's no filter, there's no mind anymore. But there's an enormous amount of source, resource, light, amplifying the pain body. So you no longer don't have a filter to like the terror in your body, like, or the terror of something, like a terror even of 100 lifetimes ago. There's no filter filtering that out. There's no separate timeline, right? Because there's no like, I'm Kiran in 2025 and I was born in 1981 and this is my world. Like, it's not like that. It's like, it's nothing. And so then all of the like stuff buried for whatever now has no filter. It comes up. Now also intelligently the light's going to start amplifying this, making it so fucking loud. Okay, now survive that. And you know what? 9 times out of 10, it doesn't. It will overwhelm a person. And they end up on the psych ward or indulging despair or indulging emptiness, right? Like, this is not a sustainable pathway. Like, we don't want the, bullet to the head awakening, basically, speaking directly.
I mean, my awakening wasn't quite waking up and seeing the matrix and the code and, explosions of light like Kiran's. But I do remember actually being quite angry about the cell around it. Like, wait a minute, all the marketing was wrong. Like, it's wild. There's no filter. I feel everything. And it's not sort of, the peace we imagine. It's reality, and that has all the colors and multitudes. And like Kiran said, all the terrors that had been buried, as well as all the light. So it's a roller coaster. And, it does integrate after a while, but I totally had this expectation of roses and equanimity and namaste, shanti forever. And also, I was very much in the, for me, it was the I don't belong seeking for, the ultimate belonging, enlightenment. So it's all I ever wanted since I found out what it was. And because it's sold as this holy grail, I thought it meant giving everything else up. The sort of traditional way of doing it, I guess, where you go to the mountain and like, that's what you do now. And that's why I went to Muji, and he kind of fits the bill of that awakening. He's kind of like the Santa Claus of presents, he's just jolly and peaceful, and it's wonderful to be around him. And his pointings are so incredibly powerful and necessary, but there's also so many myths surrounding awakening that were never dispelled, or at least for me over there. And so that seeking turned quite painful. And so fast forward to finding Kiran, she's very unique in that she doesn't portray awakening as the main event. And that is extremely liberating if you've come from a spiritual background. And it means that all the owies get to be met, and the healing becomes more accessible and integrated into your everyday. And I remember calling her up and being like, I don't know, it was like the first time I felt I can actually do this, you know, the this being find peace inside of my actual life. Because before that I was running away to Portugal like every opportunity, and the only way I found peace was being in satsang. And this was the first time that it was like, oh my god, I have a roadmap for how to find peace, like inside of, like, I can get a job, I can start my career, like it's okay to do those things. So it was a huge liberation to just find out, like, I can be, you know, like a contemporary person in normal life. It's okay.
And like, sidebar, we need that, right? Like, I don't even know if that's a sidebar. We need that. Like, there's another myth that you wake up and then you take the teacher's seat, you know, like, and it's so ridiculous because teachers, there's a certain skill set to be a teacher. And there's a real number of natural organic pathways that make a person a great teacher or not. And it isn't the content of awakening. You know, we definitely need awake lawyers, awake artists, awake garbage men, awake cleaning people, awake retail owners, awake, you know, like we need all of that. And more importantly, you have organic skill sets that are built out first that bring total fulfillment for certain things. And goddamn, it's probably not teaching, you know, like, so, you know, it's music to my ears. Like, yes, peace inside your own life, like harnessing that which you ultimately are, which isn't something you have to go discover with our tools. It's something that is like, since you're it, let's just do it. But I'm an advanced level teacher, right? So the whole of my teaching is about how to live a life of peace, which is available whether you're awake or not. And we have a lot of people in our community that are in both camps, you know, like we have a lot of awake people, and we got a lot of people who aren't. And so I see that most people who have a really peaceful life, a life with far less pain body as the driver, eventually they're going to wake up anyways. But really, that's not my business. My business is to hear your truth and write you a map for how to get there.
I'm just remembering now as we're talking how enlightenment was never something I was interested in. I was always interested in truth and God. But then when, you know, my ex-partner died by committing suicide, and I was suffering like, oh God, so much, I was so angry at life, and I was like, well, now I'm interested now in enlightenment, because all this doesn't make any sense. But not really, because then, you know, I started working with you, Kiran, and it was just about like what Cami said about finding that peace, and then or, you know, getting over the trauma, finding peace, and then over the years of sort of embodying the peace, which Kiran has these incredible tools for, like nobody else does. So practical, so like everyday life, just you in the context you're living in. It's almost like a byproduct, I'd say, that you're discovering your original nature. It's like, what? Hang on, where did she go? It was never my goal.
That's our new marketing material. It's like peace in your life, which then as a byproduct, you discover original nature. But, you know, if we just talk about that from the basics, right, most people have a resistance to that peace, which is always, you know, what we start with the Kiran Trace community programs. Like, both like the 9-day challenge, which is that free course, we offer everybody, please, sign up. This is a great course. This is a really great course. And people bounce. Poof, they bounce. Bounce right off of it. In the most funny ways, but they do. And then we've got 7 days to free your mind. Very affordable, excellent, amazing program. So we offer these really sweet, very sensual, joy-filled practices that you will not be able to do. You will bounce because it's like resistance to peace. But each of these are built for you to be aware of what bounces you. That's the real juice in every one of the programs. It's like they're so sweet, they're so joy-filled, they're so sensual, they're so lovely. You'll bounce. But how? But track it. What's bouncing you? Because there's the juice. We're in week 6 of our classes, our fall classes. And I'm going to say almost everybody's bounced at this point. But I invited a very clear map of how to track the bounce. And maybe 50% of the people in class are going to want to track it. But that's where we start the journey of peace. So I've seen, even in my advanced level students, they've studied and practiced with great masters, and we still only have maybe 50% that are ready to face the story in year 1. But Decoders, this could be you. You are probably in that 50% that wouldn't bounce. And certainly by year 2, there's a little less bounce. And by 3, you're probably in. And then it's like, oh, this is interesting.
I remember how restorative and grounding it was to not be so obsessed with enlightenment. It felt like I could breathe again. Even if it meant suddenly having my eyes open to all of these, little, terrible, I don't belong monsters that were actually there all along, but I just never had the tools to really look at directly. And some of them were already very loud because I'd been doing all this spiritual work, which, as Kiran says, unanchors the pain that was hidden before. So it kind of comes up to the surface, and nobody had pointed me to how to directly meet and embrace all these little babies, because when you actually meet them, they're very, very sweet, and they just want to cuddle, and then your life transforms. Like that's the formula. But yeah, it's actual transformation, and it's completely life-changing, but it also makes the transformation process so much more enjoyable, because I think in spiritual circles you can get so used to suffering you don't even notice it, or maybe you even think it's pious because it's in the name of God.
Yeah, absolutely. And even when we're awakening into our original, like awakening into its original nature, what that really is, right? There's multiple types, right? So we have my type, which is also Byron Katie, Eckhart Tolle. It happens. It's kind of rare. Or it's the rarer form, where it's just like, as I like to say, the gun to the head awakening. But we also have, like right here, like Leela's. Like Leela became randomly awake without even knowing she was awake. Like after years of practice and fulfillment, and there was even a short little time there where she was like, I think I'm awake. And it was like, you're not awake. But then it just like her separate being exactly just melted off. And then there was literally just life looking out. And it was quite a while before it got pointed out that it's like, there's no me here. It's just a very beautiful melting off, and that happens. That's more common, and wish for that one if anyone's wishing for one. Like, that's beautiful. But we also have, like Cam. Cami has a hugely devoted practice, studied with a lot of different masters, was a really beautiful and integral seeker and very invested in it. And then through a series of like ripening insights, pop, You know, that one insight just caught fire and just cracked the whole thing open. And the separate self got sucked into nothing, like just gone. And that's very common. And that's also a really beautiful way to go, truth be told. It's like there's so much prep. It's like you prepared for the banquet, and 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 then one day you put a little piece of that cake in your mouth and boof!
Yeah, I do remember it, in some ways, if Kiran hadn't pointed it out, I wouldn't have known what it was. And at the same time, everything was different instantly. It felt like being a newborn, or like suddenly living in a new country where some of the rules made sense and some of the rules were like batshit crazy. Or like some friendships or TV shows or relationships I'd held dear suddenly like crumbled. Yeah, so it was, I don't know, it was a ride. It was like even though it wasn't, the...
Yeah, newborn little baby Buddhas don't always know that they're newborn baby Buddhas.
Yeah, but I'm like, why am I tripping up like a toddler all the time? How do I do life from here?
Down on very basics. Why is nap time the whole of my day?
Yeah, literally, Kira was like, just get a coloring book and this will be your life for the next like 2 months to 2 years. Just like lots of downtime. And it's funny because at the time I just bought a bed and the slats didn't fit. So I had a bed frame with no slats. So I actually had a crib for like a month until they sent me the new bed frame.
And I'm just going to add this little note to those people listening that are terrified. Ironically, she's in bed and life keeps doing life very well. So anything built in truth, any part of her life that was built out of truth was stabilized, totally fine, carried on. She paid the rent, she paid the bills, the true relationships were covered, life was covered, life covers life. Yeah. It's always been covering life. Life's been doing it the whole time. But anything that was built on her false pain body crumbled to dust.
I think my absolute favorite ever enlightenment story is also a very random one. Like this summer we met up with a dear friend of ours,
community member from Kiran Trace community, yeah, that we went to visit in person.
Yeah. And she's, I don't know how old she is, over 80. She's this little joyful lady. She used to be an actress. And then we hang out and it's so like, something is so delicious about this being. I just so enjoy her so much. And then randomly she tells us how she went to sleep one night and then she sort of...
Oh, wait, let me just decorate it for everybody for 1 second. Let me just do the storytelling. So we've been with her for like 4 hours at this point. And it's a sweltering day, in Southern California. We find this like gorgeous little sort of boutique-y place that has air conditioning. And they have this beautiful like jewelry, tarot cards, t-shirts, hats, really cool imported clothes, shoes. There's a salon at the back and they have beautiful couches. And so honestly, we're sitting here and it's been about 4 hours of just like being such a delicious, juicy being. Everyone's trying on all the clothes. We each have like little piles beside us. And like as each hour goes, like in the first hour, we have 2 or 3 items. By the third hour, we all have like 5 or 6 items. And it's like a living room hang, but it's in this boutique. And it's like, hour 4, Alice randomly turns to me and Leela to tell us about this dream she had.
I don't remember the dream actually. I just remember how she woke up.
So she had this dream. So she dreams at night that she's like, oh, by the way, I had this dream the other night that I was there and it was the Big Bang moment. And there was just this vast darkness, like the velvety darkness and all these lights and colors. And then it all just goes boom into this void. And then there's this little pinprick of light. And then the light opens. And then she sort of looks up and she's like, and I'm still dreaming it. Like, it's still the same. Like, it's still, and I'm like looking at her and I'm like, Alice, like, is that light and nothingness here now? And she's like, oh, yes. And then I'm like, am I here? Like, is Leela here? Like, and she's like, yeah, but no, like, no. Yeah. And then I was like, Alice, like, did you wake up? And she's like, yeah. And then she says, like, but it's really just life. She's like, it's nothing special. Like, it isn't anything, but it's also just, my garden and Nick and errands, And she's like, it's just so, I don't know. I don't want to put any words on it because it's really ordinary. And then I say to her, Alice, is there love? And then she's so sweet. Oh my God, her little face, she just looks up and all these tears start rolling down her face. And she's like, yeah, so much. And it's hard to describe the sacredness of that moment for all of us, that we were just like, oh. And suddenly the last 4 hours made sense of why we could just be in such a sweet, joyful, ordinary, but suspended space of presence, with our new shoes and new dresses, book or two. But yeah, it's a delightful way to awaken. She had years and years of very serious teachings, and as a seeker, she worked with Krishnamurti. She worked with a lot of great masters, including me. I was her main gal once she found me. And over the years, she's been very comfortable in a very peaceful place until one night she had a dream. Bam. And I said to her, when was that dream? And she was, about 3 or 4 months ago. She hadn't really noticed. She just sort of because it was nothing, and it's all, just errands in the garden and her husband and, just life.
So sweet. So delicious.
Totally. Okay. So I think the point that we're trying to say to you guys is that your own ripeness to awaken into original nature, and frankly, almost any awakening really, isn't in your control.
Yeah, Kiran, haven't you said before that it's just like a karmic process, or like whether it's in your karma or not?
Yeah, you can't get in that driver's seat and drive yourself there. It can't be done. But the more you unravel the pain body, the one that jumps in the driver's seat and drives the car, the more there's less and less there is of that. And as Leela was also saying, like, the more you start to trust the ease, the effortless, the actual peace. And as we say again and again on the podcast, that's not coming from the mind pulling apathy or a la-la. That's the delicious rest and beingness in the body that unravels that, which then changes your karma, because that is the karmic blueprint. So yeah, it's a karmic process.
And what I'm also hearing is that the actual key is to not resist our pain bodies, to not indulge them, to not go sort of hide out or sweep them under the rug or go blind on them, but sort of have awareness turn around and just starting to really look at them. And, eventually hold them and baby them. And
well, I know we're kind of simplifying it. It's quite a thing. And I just want to give that a moment. It's like the first time someone says, sit with your thoughts, and you're like, I'd rather go to the dentist. Thank you very much. It can be outrageously difficult if you don't have a precise pathway showing you the joyful, simple, sensual like step by step. And that's what our classes do. That's what retreat does. That's what, the private sessions, either with you or me or any of the coaches, like it's a very precise map that's landing you in a really soft, sweet, sensual place to meet things. So it's not the mind in this like sort of empty box just watching mind, ow, and if we do that with pain body, right, like we're just this empty box and it's mind watching pain body, like, oh, like that's not repeatable or worthwhile to do. So but it is what you're saying. It's like the willingness, the availability to just turn, to look at what's being swept under the carpet, and then maybe sign up for the 9-day challenge. Sign up for 7 days to free your mind. You will bounce. You will not be able to achieve what's being asked there. That's the point of the class. Watch what bounces you. And it's embedded in there. I'm literally saying, it's not about trying to get this, like, here's what we're good, like, do this today. You're not going to be able to do this today, but please watch what happens when you refuse to do it today. It's too simple. It's too peaceful. It's too easy. It's too soft. It's too simple. Your mind will want some more complexity and more drama. But watch that. Okay. Do you want to catch up?
Yeah, I just have a little catch up from Sunday. So I got a brand new bed and it's the color of maraschino cherries and I absolutely love it.
We're very invested in your bed now. It's no longer a crib.
I have an actual bed. But I had a very sweet hobbit neighbor around for coffee. And she was like, do you want help? And I was like, yes, please. And she helped me build it. But I totally forgot. She's a hobbit. I'm a fairy. So I was trying to I didn't even want to look at the instructions. They gave me a rash. I was jumping steps, skipping all over. Oops, we did it this way. We have to go back and do it that way. And she's like, okay, so I noticed the logo is on this side of, the plank. Which side would you like it to face, Cami? Or I don't know, just really taking her time over the form. And then halfway through, I think I was a little self-conscious that I'd asked her for this huge favor. So I was like, if you want to bail, that's fine. But she's like, what are you talking about? We're going to see this through. So bless her, she helped me, build the bed in just this beautifully sort of hobbit with the form executed right to the end way. That would have been a lot, I would have left halfway through quite happily and then come back to it. So yeah, it was just sweet to have that hobbit support.
Yeah,
there as well.
I think the look of if the hobbit's very slowly feeling its way through each thing, and then you've got this fairy sort of jumping in with some innovated, sweet little enthusiasm back and forth. It's quite nice. It's quite lovely. It doesn't get too slow or too heavy or too exact, because the fairy's but what about this? But what about this? And isn't this fun? And that randomness of the fairy can help uplift and juice up the process in that kind of system.
Sweet.
Okay, Dakotas will be back here next week with another fun-filled episode from the three of us. And linked here is my blog, The Ultimate Guide to Spiritual Awakening. And as always, we love you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. We obviously love hearing what you think. Your feedback helps us make a better show for you to listen to. So feel free to comment, and you can do it at Facebook, which is the Humans Decoded podcast. And if you're not on social, you can always email any questions to us at outreach@kirantrace.com. And thanks for listening. We love you.